If you disallow the use of the medical care that is accepted by every major medical association, if you disallow that care and don't allow people to have access to that, the only therapy left is either A, meaningless, or B, conversion therapy, which is torture. Intersex people exist, trans people exist, and this bill doesn't change that. At the very end of the bill, the letter that says life-altering medical procedures should wait until they are adults. What I will say is if you are, by this bill and by what these amendments do, if you are forcing a trans child to go through puberty when they are trans, that is tantamount to torture. If you vote yes on this bill, and yes on these amendments, I hope the next time there's an invocation, when you bow your heads in prayer, you see the blood on your hands.
That's out in Montana. That's Representative Zooey Zephyr. She made that speech as they're debating this bill that, of course, many Montanans, Republicans here, are fighting with gender-affirming care for minors. So all that you heard her say there, you have to wonder, man, this must have been really horrible, because you know what they did? They decided to go ahead and shut her down, silence her, and make sure that she can't speak anymore. Crazy. Let's go to those details, because this Montana Freedom Caucus, a group of conservative lawmakers, they responded by accusing Ms. Zephyr in a letter of attempting, this is what they said, attempting to shame the legislative body using hateful rhetoric. That's their excuse. Now, this letter, which misgendered Ms. Zephyr, called her to be censured. Maybe, Emilio, you did this one? Maybe there was a longer portion of this speech where all the hate was spewing from Representative Zephyr's mouth, and then they all got offended, and there was actually a problem there, because I still didn't see it based off of things that people tend to say. This is the bill that she was disputing, though. It was approved near the end of the week, in which the state's House and Senate passed several measures targeting transgender people. And on Tuesday, the governor, who's a Republican, asked lawmakers to strengthen the legislation banning what doctors call gender-affirming care for minors with a series of amendments, according to the Montana Free Press. So in the letter, Mr. Gianforte, that governor, said that gender-affirming care was a misleading term and compared it to Orwellian newspeak. That sounds like your opinion, bro. But still, though, after this whole thing went down, she was silenced, and she pointed this out. This is what she tweeted. The Republican Party of Montana is refusing to allow me, a transgender representative, to speak on any bill. On any bill. Don't forget about that part. Not just this bill that they figured that she had this hateful, divisive rhetoric on, but any bill. She said this is fundamentally undemocratic. My light is on, and I'm ready to speak on behalf of the constituents who elected me to do so. So this is happening in Montana for different reasons of what happened also in Tennessee, except in Tennessee they tried to kick everyone out that disputed with them on gun violence and gun legislation. Still, though, some supporters did come out in Montana as they saw this going down and saw the silencing of this one particular representative, and they spoke out. Okay, so Dan, the debate off of the way that folks may go about gender-affirming care, specifically with minors, is something that's a hot button issue for many folks who think this is abuse, who think these are children who don't know what they're talking about, or thinking with, I think, not much of analysis towards the human beings that are behind these debates, these fights, these pundit talking about every time. So when you have this type of debate, I would think it's useful, even if you disagree with it, to have someone who actually knows the experience, lives it, and can actually talk to you about it. But instead, that becomes, hey, that person's looking to do A, B, or C. So there's a lack of trust there. But if you actually want to get to the bottom of what it is and actually prove your point that this is abuse, which if you want to have this debate, have it. But to silence someone kind of shows you're not willing to have that debate, or you're not very confident in your stance.
It's the perfect microcosm of the modern Republican Party. They, even down to, never mind how they constantly reference George Orwell, even though we're at least 2 years away from either a completely that on the book ban list or a Republican revised version of George Orwell where all of their misreadings of it make sense. But if someone is, speaking from their experience, which you're right, like that's a better way to have this approach, is to have people who are like going through these experiences speak and add to the democratic process we're supposed to have. having someone introduce a phrase like gender-affirming care, and then a member of the government trying to make sure that phrase is stricken away and you can't use that is not newspeak. No, that's not how newspeak works. If you're the government and you are striking away speech, that is what is the censorship that they're talking about in 1984, not the introduction of that speech from the grassroots, from people who are at the forefront of bringing education about this, that a lot of it's new, a lot of it's been existed for years, but has been suppressed by these same religious fundamentalists. They're bringing it to the forefront. They're making it so the government has to address this because, again, like, these are people's lives, laws, care that they're getting with their doctors, that they, like, everyone who is qualified is okay with this and they're going forward with it. The people who aren't qualified, the politicians who claim to want to stay outside of people's lives, are the ones who are once again showing how just inept and hypocritical they are.
This is one of those things, man. If you stop and think about it, every time these types of conversations had, when it's not about trans rights, but it's just about LGBTQ in general, a lot of this basis is based off of their religious beliefs, specifically what they've been told in their churches and synagogues and whatever else. By their priests and everyone like that. So if this is the basis for the reasons why you're trying to pass laws that would limit other folks' rights, folks that you openly hate, that you called names and said they should be eradicated, all that stuff, and oh my God, these children, they're going to change their minds later. What is it that you're doing about these folks that you're saying are changing their minds later and have been brainwashed by their parents and the folks around them that are looking to destroy this country? It all goes back to you thinking it's weird, to you thinking you don't understand it, and then again, God told you that. So what about the people in the same country? Do they have less rights to believe something different? Do they have less rights to do something with their own bodies? Because let's keep it real. You're not thinking about them past that election, past that debate, past that one legislative body where you're trying to pass these laws so that you can then tell your hateful constituents that supported you on this, hey, I passed some laws to hate more people, reelect me. That's always the bottom line. It always goes back to your religious beliefs. That's not the way it's supposed to be in this country. In fact, we always taught how wonderful it is, and it's not like that. But when you pass laws based on that and then hide it, it's not really about religion. Find yourself in this circle.